Hi, Michael King here today from the King's Armoury, antique firearms and collectibles dealership in Perth, Western Australia. Today I'd like to show you some footage of a reenactment society here in Perth that I was involved with for a while, called the Volunteer Rifle Regiment, Perth Pensioner Guards. I've done a lot of reenactment over the years. I had a lot of fun with it, dressing up and shooting our guns and stuff. The Pensioner Guards are a great bunch of guys here, and this footage is from 2004 up in Kings Park in Perth, and it's worth a watch just for all of the information that Dr. Leo Layden shares about muzzle-loading guns and some of the history of the volunteer regiment here in Perth. I hope you enjoy. I'll see you next time.
Live fire, present! Fire! Good! Arm! Advance! Arm! Order! Arm!
We're not going to be shooting bullets today, we're just shooting confetti, but it's still nicer if you're not covered with it. Well, on behalf of the descendants of the enrolled pensioner forces, welcome to today's unveiling of this lovely thing. And to carry on with the official proceedings, it's my great pleasure to introduce the acting CEO of the Botanical Gardens.
The enrolled pensioner guards were veterans of the British Army who had served over 20 years in locations such as Afghanistan, India, China, Crimea and the East and West Indies. The enrolled pensioner guards came with the promise of a better life. As a reward for their duties, they were given a plot of land sufficient to maintain themselves and their families. The enrolled pensioner guards contributed significantly not only to the construction of various public works, but also to the general Western Australian community. The Guards played a vital role in guarding the settlement, patrolling the areas of St George's Terrace, the banks of the Swan River and Government House. Prior to the arrival of the convicts and the Pensioner Guards in 1850, the progress of public works in the colony was slow due to a lack of labour. The influence of the convicts and their guards on Western Australia's landscape can be seen in such buildings as Government House, the Perth Town Hall, the Supreme Court building and the old Fremantle Asylum, now the Fremantle Arts Centre. In 1863 the pensioners' barracks were built at the head of St George's Terrace. The barracks contained 120 rooms, a hospital, ammunition magazine and other facilities. The remnant of the arch can still be seen at the western end of St George's Terrace. By the time the transportation of convicts ceased in 1868, Western Australia's public works were in good shape thanks to the convicts and the enrolled pensioner guards. It is now my pleasure to dedicate this sign to commemorate the old rifle range once used by the enrolled pensioner guards. Thank you.
While you're all here, it's a very good time to give you a very quick little living history lesson, because the rifles these fellas have got are exactly like the rifles that were actually used here during the competitions. And it just so happens that tomorrow at our shooting club in Wanneroo we have a competition for military rifles, and some of those will be in actual use tomorrow, doing similar things that they did here 175 years ago. But we'll show you how these little guns work and a little bit of the history attached to them. Firstly, we are not pensioner guards. These are soldiers from the Perth Volunteer Rifle Regiment, and in the 1860s they had nothing to do with guarding convicts. Australia was scared that we were going to be attacked by the Russians, so all over the country volunteer rifle regiments were formed to protect the country in case we were invaded. Of course we didn't get invaded, and after so many years the regiments were disbanded, and the modern rifle clubs that we have now all over Australia are the direct descendants of the volunteers from the 1860s. We are all armed with Enfield rifles, wonderful English percussion rifles, except for the Highlander who got left over somehow. He's from the 42nd Regiment from Waterloo, and we brought him along for two reasons. One, he looks very pretty. Secondly, he's going to show you the guns they used before the introduction of these wonderful Enfields. Sergeant, would you like to get the Highlanders to come forward?
Hold it, and cut! 3 places forward, cut!
Right. This rather portly Highlander has got a brown best ball. There's no rifling. It's just like a giant shotgun. Absolutely bloody hopeless to try to hit anything at more than about 50 metres. And it's a flintlock. Would you go through the loading procedure, please, Sergeant, and I'll explain what happens. A flintlock has a little bit of flint that is going to make a spark to set the whole process in motion. You have to load it standing up. There's no hiding behind a rock or kneeling or anything like that. You have to stand up and load. To get into the British Army, you must have front teeth. If you haven't got front teeth, you can't get in the army, because you bite the paper cartridge open with your teeth. You then pour a little bit of powder down the back end, about face the musket. In goes the rest of the powder and the paper and the ball, and then you ram it down. All this is happening in view of the enemy, who are only about 50 metres away. So you try to keep calm and control yourself and go through the loading procedure, and a good soldier should be able to fire 4 shots a minute in any kind of weather. These little buggers don't always go off, because the flintlock is a funny mechanism. It's a cheap mechanism, it's cheap to make, it's reasonably sort of reliable, but let's see if it goes off. There'll be a flash in front of his face, and then the main thing will go off. That wasn't, but, oh, come, don't clap him, don't clap. That was a shocking one. Put some bloody powder down, could you? Put a real charge in. Come on, Warren, really, that wasn't very good. Double charge, let's have a real bang. Now, he's going to reload in his own time, and one of the interesting things that happens, during the loading procedure, he puts the gun on what's called half-cocked. He then primes it, a little bit of powder in the back, turns it round, and sometimes the gun goes off in this position. That's called going off half-cocked, and we still use the expression now. We hope it doesn't go off half-cocked, because it'll spoil his lovely hat, but it can happen. He's going through the procedure, and you know, I must stress that you always load muzzleloaders standing up, so there's none of this hiding. And the other problem is, it's no point in hiding because of all the smoke. As soon as your gun goes off, the enemy knows where you are, and they clobber you. Okay, let's see what happens this time. Is that a double charge? Yes. Okay, let's see. This will be a real bang. Oh, much better. Now you can clap him. Now, come 1853, the Enfield rifle was introduced, which is what everybody else has got, and these are rifles. They've got rifling, and you can hit something, well, you maybe can't hit it, but they certainly will shoot to 900 yards. Yes, my dear chap. Oh. The sergeant just told me that when we did the volley, 2 of the fellows had misfires. That means the guns didn't go off. That's usually because of slovenly cleaning. Who are the ones who didn't go off? Step forward. Step forward. Okay, in front. I'm going to shoot me. Now this can happen. What I was going to say, that these guns are very reliable and always go off.
Fire!
They both went off second time round. Well done, fellas, that was a very good volley. Now let me explain, these were introduced in 1853. You know, it's the first time the British Army, every soldier had a rifle, which means he could hit what he was aiming at. In our competitions we shoot at 50, 100 and 200, but these go right up to 900 yards. This actually was the rifle, the 1853 Enfield, was the rifle that was blamed for the Indian Mutiny. because they had paper cartridges, just like the brown vest down the end, greased in what political agitators told people was mutton and pig fat. Probably wasn't, but you know, that's politics. You still have to load standing up. You still have to have... Would you like to go through the loading procedure, Sergeant? But let them do it in their own time and see who's the quickest. 2 shots, right? We'll see who gets 2 shots off the quick. Just remember to take ramrods out, because if you fire your ramrod, it goes cartwheeling and lands up, oh, way over by that memorial thing over there. Here we go. Let's see what happens. They should be able to fire 4 shots in a minute in any type of weather. Unlike a flintlock that is affected by, well done, by the rain, percussion guns are in any type of weather. Can you imagine what this must have been like with 20,000... What on earth? That really wasn't... Cherry one, well done. That's the regimental chaplain. The regimental chaplain has won. But who's going to be last?
The warrior monk.
Pardon?
The warrior monk.
Yes. What is the little fella doing down the end there? Those of you that are observant, you'll also notice that we have bayonets. With these bayonets can be fitted and fired with bayonets on. Come on, Ronald. The enemy is coming. Oh, well done, well done, well done. Sergeant, you think you could get them to fix bayonets, load up and fire down the line?
They don't all fit on.
They don't all fit on.
Government issue, wrong one.
Government issue, I see. Those that do have bayonets, could you kindly ask them to do it? This is a volunteer regiment, so we're very polite. We're not as brisk as the ordinary army. And we're going to fire down the line. Now, firing down the line is a sort of bang, 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 bang at a regular interval. We'll see how good they are. Now, the bayonets that the fellows have got are all originals. These are real bayonets from the 1860s. All of the guns are exact copies made in England for people like eccentrics like us who like to shoot them.
Reload!
They're going through the reloading procedure. Out comes the cartridge. The cartridge, the paper used on these, the expression still used because we use the term cartridge paper. That's what it comes from. In goes the powder, in goes the cartridge, and in real conditions the bullet would go in as well. Out comes the rod, ram it. Remember to put the ramrod back. Well done. And we're going to fire down the line and see what happens.
What are you doing?
When you're ready, Sergeant.
Stand up! Stand up! Put up! Wait for it! Take! You want to keep that bloody strong man's goggle? 45%!
No, down the line.
No, sir.
Yes, sorry.
None of the officers? Right, right, left. Fire down the line. Fire!
That really wasn't bad at all. Now look, we will finish now, but I think we'll just fire a rousing volley to finish with, don't you think, Sergeant? I think it's a good idea. And when we finish, for those of you that are interested in that, come on and have a chat to us and have a look at the guns. And in my pocket, I've got one of the projectiles that we actually shoot. These are called mini bullets, or mini balls. There's nothing mini about them at all. They're enormous, but they're called minis after the Frenchman who invented them, Captain Minier. And the anglicised version is a mini. The ball that the brown vest down the end fires is a lead ball that size. Most people will call it a fishing sinker, but we shoot these in competition at 50 metres. One rousing volley to finish with, and for those of you that are having a cup of tea with us afterwards up in the little house, I've got with me a genuine pensioner guards rifle. with the Pensioner Guards markings on them, so you can certainly come and have a look. That really is a lovely little bit of real history. Now a perfect volley, gentlemen.
Volley, fire, present! Fire!
What's happened to the artilleryman in the middle? That was very unkind, wasn't it?
Good! Arm! Advance! Arm! General salute! Present! Arm!
Well done, fellas. Now,
Advance! Arm!
before they go off, you'll notice the sergeant is going to go down the line and check all the guns to make sure they're empty. I don't think any of you will be surprised, but at our shooting ranges that we have all over Australia, the number of accidents we have is 0. We don't have accidents at shooting ranges because safety is our number one priority. So he's going to go and check them, and the old-fashioned way of checking muzzleloaders, because you can't open the back end because it's sealed, you drop a ramrod down it and you hear it go ring. It's called sounding the barrel.
From the right, sound!
You'll listen. Did you hear the rings? Did you hear the rings? We're trying to play Beethoven's Fifth with ringing, but it's incredibly hard.
And hard! Advance! Arm! High port! Arm!
He's now going to check the back end of them to make sure that there's nothing on them. And when we get home, all of these guns have to be stripped and cleaned. And they're stripped and cleaned with water. That's all you need. You clean them with water, you then dry them and oil them. And if you look after them properly, they will last for ages and ages and ages.
Advance! Arm!
Right, you're going to march them off?
Up! Move to right, in file! Right! Turn! Come here, pick up the pack. At the ordinary pace, right wheel, forward, hard.
Right, off they go back into history. And the rest of us will have a nice cup of tea, okay?
Aim, aim, aim.